And I'm drawing a blank. Get it together. Okay. Must have coffee. Hi guys, okay, so today I'm going to show you how I contour my face. There are, of course, many different ways to do it. I'm going to show you how I personally contour using both cream products and powder products. Neither is better or worse than the other. They're really just up to personal preference. So I'm going to do cream on one side of my face and powder on the other side of my face. I don't want to say not to contour with bronzer. Contour with whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever you find looks best on you. Bronzer is really not supposed to be for contour. You'll see me using it in my videos a little bit, but I get away with it a little bit more because I do already have quite prominent cheekbones, and a lot of the time I'm not trying to carve my cheekbones out using my bronzer. And of course you guys know that I use this, my Maybelline Fit Me powder, as my bronzer color because it's the perfect bronzer color for me. A lot of the time though, I'll use this to add color and dimension into the face, but not actually to bring out my bone structure, if that makes any sense. If you're going to bring out your bone structure, you want to use something that's a little bit more neutral and that looks a little bit more like a shadow. The best way, I think, to try to guess what color you're going to use is to look at, so I only have on foundation at the moment. I don't have on any cream highlights or contours or anything of that kind. I only have a little bit of concealer just under my eyes. That's it. And of course my eyebrows are done. Have a look at the actual shadows that your own bones cast. If you don't really have cheekbones, look under here for that kind of shadow color. And then you can sort of identify what it needs to look like. Don't use gray because it's just going to look gray. You need to use, usually it's a kind of a grayish brown sort of color, a very neutral brown, nothing too warm because it's going to look red on you. If you're going to go for bronzers, they can have more red in them because you're trying to look like you've been in the sun, which is different. And you're going to be using that across the high points of your face. And I'll do a whole video on bronzing, which is something completely different than contour. So for contour, for powder contours, this color, and this color. These, of course, are my Coastal Scents Hot Pots. This one is called Brownstone. This one comes off quite gray, though. So I tend to warm this one up a little bit with this color, which is called Soft Taupe. I first have to powder my face, or at least that side of my face, because I don't have any powder on yet. Now, highlight is an important part of contour because it will heighten that sense of there being depth. So if there is a shadow, there's more than likely going to be some kind of a highlight. So I'm going to show you how I highlight with powders as well. Although a lot of the time, if you see my videos, I tend to do cream highlights using my concealers and, you know, the center of the face part, which I'm going to do on this side. But and then I'll use more of a powder, like I said, a bronzer for dimension. I don't usually do a whole lot of contouring because, again, I don't feel like I need a lot of contour. But I'm showing you for these purposes. So I'm going to take my contour brush by Real Techniques. This is a great brush. It's round, it's soft, but it's still quite dense. It stands up to what I call the palm test, where I'm actually putting quite a lot of pressure on the brush and it's not collapsing. So I'm going to pick up the darker color first, which is the brownstone, and then a little bit of the light taupe, and then I'm going to work it off a little bit on the back of my hand, work it into the brush, so you get the barest amount inside your brush, and that way you're not putting down like a load of contour and then it gets muddy. So now to find the right placement. I have a fairly long face, and my cheekbones tend to come, if you put your hand on your face and touch your face, sounds weird, you can feel where your cheekbones are. My cheekbones actually start here. This is where the dent is. They start around the hinge of your jaw. If you do that and you can feel where it moves, that's where your cheekbones generally start. And they tend to come actually quite straight across like this. And then of course the hollow in here is where the shadow would be cast. Now, I don't want to come straight down to the sides of my mouth because I'll get very long looking at it. I want to create a fullness in my cheek, and I think that's kind of the point of contouring, is not just to create bone structure, but it's also to create some kind of fullness in your face, which is why we contour and highlight, and then, you know, we use blush and we make our cheeks look nice and full and healthy. If your face looks long and sunken, you're going to look tired. So when I pull my contour all the way down in the direction that the hollow of my face goes in, it drags me down, and it makes this part of my face look very empty and sallow, and not sallow, sunken. So instead, I'll go from where my, just above where my cheekbone starts, not right here, but just above it, kind of on the bone itself instead of underneath the bone, if that makes any sense. And I'll go along the bone, you know, under here, into the hollow of the cheek, to right about here, kind of in line with my nose almost. And then I'll scoop it upwards a little bit, and that's giving more of a roundness to my cheek. So I'm going to start here, and I'm barely touching my face, and I'm going to pull upwards. And then I'm going to go in circles to blend it out. Now we've got a kind of a sharp line going on. So because I've kind of used most of what was in my brush, I'm going to just work off the rest of it, and then I'm going to blend. I don't want to say blend down, because you don't want to blend down too far here, but I'm going to just sort of blend across that line to try to soften it a little bit. I never blend any lower than the hollow. I don't want, it will look dragged down if I do that. Then I'm going to go for a little touch of the lighter color and build that up a little bit more. And just keep blending away. Blend along that line. Use little motions, use circles, use little up and down motions, and all of that. I've kind of cheated the idea that I've got more of a round cheek than a straight down cheek. If you think you need to, you can go back in with your face powder and just go back over that line again. And that helps you to get a really nice contour. You can do it, of course, a lot more strongly than that. Again, I have quite sharp cheekbones already, so I don't want to be too sharp with it, because then I'll really start to look hard. And looking hard like that can make you look, can be very aging, make you look very tired. Okay, so we've got that going on. I'm going to go back over it with my big powder brush. Not down or up, just back and forth. Again, it softens that line. Now to highlight, you can use matte highlights, or you can use something shimmery. I'm going to go for matte. So once we have the highlight done, you can go back in and put in a shimmery highlight if you want to. I personally love that, but I'm showing you how to do it so that if you wanted a more matte finish, you can get that. And then you can just add blush. So that is a really, really simple powder contour for your cheekbone. So the places that you want to put the shadows are places that naturally sink in. Again, your temple, your cheekbone is supposed to come out, and your temple kind of sinks back in. And that will also help create the idea that you've got more of a cheekbone happening if you give yourself a little bit of contour right here. So start right up against your hairline and work it back and forth. Again, not really going any lower than the line of your eye, although for me, because like I've said before, I've got those straight cheekbones, I like to blend it just right here over the edge of the cheekbone, but you can skip that part. That just helps to give me more of a rounded effect. And then if you want to minimize something like a very big forehead like I have, so I'm putting on very, very little, and so it's very important that you've powdered your skin properly, because if not, the contour colors that you're using are going to stick to your tacky foundation, and then they're going to get muddy. And use a soft brush, and that will help you to blend it properly. And you do definitely want to blend backwards into the hairline, because your hairline is usually a little bit lighter than your skin, no matter what complexion you are. And the worst thing in the world is to see that dark contour and then see the light hairline kind of sticking through your hair, which is kind of gross. So depending on the shape of your forehead, your contour shape is going to change. For me, my forehead isn't overly broad, but it's quite high. As you guys can see, I've got a very high forehead. So I tend to contour across the top of it and bring it down this way, because I do want to create more width across here, across my eyes. And if I bring the contour in this way, it's going to bring my forehead in. So I tend to come this way, kind of like in a diagonal, and then blend back and forth over the top of them. And then once again, if you need to help blending, take up a little bit of your face powder and blend across. Now you can also blend some contour across your jawline. That helps to straighten out your jawline a little bit. Especially helpful if you tend to be a little bit jowly. You go across here if you want to, depending on how much shape you want in your face. This is what you would do. So once again, I'm going to go back in with my face powder and just soften that up a little bit. You can also go underneath your chin. It creates a little bit of depth, and it you know, gets rid of the little double chin thing that some of us have going on. I'm generally not someone who contours the nose. You can go ahead and do that. That is a whole different ball game, requires different brushes, because your nose is not a flat plane. It's got bumps and crooks, and it depends. So I'm not going to do the nose. The nose is something different. You can go ahead and do that if you want to. I generally don't tend to. And so the next step will be putting on blush. If you're going to put on blush, you should if you're going to contour, because it will help to create a little bit more of a flush. It helps to just bring everything together. You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just going to use a kind of apricot type blush on a dual fiber brush, which means you can put on a very kind of sheer wash of it. And you kind of want to place it in between your contour and your highlight and then blend it through. I tend to scoop it up a little bit to round out my cheeks some more. You don't want to bring your blush color all the way in here, because it's just going to look weird. It's going to pull your face in, make you look pinched. You want to kind of place your blush underneath your pupil and in line with your nose. This is where you want to place it. Then you can work it out. And you can blow it out more if you want to, but I'm just showing you something that will be a little bit more on the natural side, like that. So that's your basic powder contour type thing. It's really natural, and I haven't added any shimmery highlight or anything, so you can see it, you know, from far away, and it will photograph quite nicely. Very Benedict Cumberbatch kind of cheekbone that goes